Islam. The need for unity is so great that it is better to unite than to eat, sleep, drink, talk, or walk. This is the hour of deception. A house divided cannot stand. And for that cause, we are preparing ourselves to become one again with our Father, God, Allah. We must remember the mighty and great need for unity. We must remember the cause of our fall and why it is so hard for this age to comprehend the resurrection of the dead. At this time, I'd like to recite the Moorish prayer, because this is the source from which we draw our strength. Now, when I say we get ready to say the Moorish prayer, we must be ever mindful, because before the advent of the Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, there was nobody in the United States of America teaching anything about religion from an Islamic perspective other than Noble Drew Ali. So we're going to talk about him today, and right now I'm going to recite the Moorish prayer, and it is said on this wise. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. First off, I'd like to rise, walking in Jerusalem, just like John, giving praise to Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible, the one who stretched forth the heaven with his hands, who have described with his fingers the courses of the stars, who said it bounds to the ocean that it cannot pass, and said to the stormy winds, be still. I'd like to give honor to Allah's holy and illustrious prophet, because he reached down into the watery grave of hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harmed to set you and me back upright on our feet again. I'd like to give honor to all of those, and honor to all of you that have and will aid and assist us in this, our divine and gigantic mission, the uplifting of fallen humanity. And last but not least, I'd like to give a special honor to effort, because so many of us don't even try. At this time, I'd like to read from the book of the Seven Seals, that none was able to open and read from its sacred pages the messages of purity and love. And I'll be reading from verses 46, verse 14, and it reads on this wise. Every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs in order, as long as they're in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. Thus, we just had a reading of the Book of the Seven Seals that was divinely prepared by our Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali for our earthly and our divine salvation. We're going to do a couple of shows today, but the first one that we're doing right now is very important. It's talking about last month in the Moorish Temple of America that we had a convention. In the Moorish Temple of America, there are two conventions. We have one in September, and we have one in October. Now, the one in September is the one that the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali established first. And because of the snow that's in Chicago, the Moors back in the day had asked the Prophet, can we change the convention from September to October because of the circumstances? The Prophet Noble Drew Ali never got the chance to change it. And for that cause, it is still like it was when the prophet was on the scene. So we want to talk about that a little bit, because the last month I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it, writing things down that I can share with my Portland listening audience. And before I do that, I want to share something with you, because recently one of the brothers came to me, and I had no knowledge of this. He said, we're looking at the internet. And as we look at the internet, we looking at the DC blacks. I had no understanding of the DC blacks. And the reason why I had no understanding of the DC black, because when I learned about the prophet Noble Jew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America, it was the brothers from Washington, D.C. that was in a place called KY. And KY is in Lexington, Kentucky. And this is when a brother by the name of H. Scott Eel out of the temple, and one of the temples was in Lexington, Kentucky, and he got the chance to meet a couple of brothers out of Washington, D.C. And by meeting a couple of brothers out of Washington, D.C., they had asked him to get in touch with a brother in Baltimore by the name of Rufus German Bey. And the reason why they wanted him to get in touch with Rufus German Bey, because they wanted to set up a temple. They wanted to set up a Moorish Science Temple of America, so we could teach the people who they are and who their forefathers were. But when they wrote German Bey in 1954, and German Bey took it to the convention, the members said at that time, we don't want to take the teachings of the prophet and give it to nobody that's inside a preparation center. The following year, he did the same thing. He took the same subject matter to the convention. And when he took the subject matter to the convention, they said again, we're not going to take the teachings of the prophet Noble Jew Ali inside no institution. So in 1956, German Bey, who was a member of Temple 13, who was a member of those 5 brothers and those 7 brothers that German Bey introduced to the prophet's chamber in the Moorish Science Temple of America. So today, I'm going to talk about it because I'm from Washington. I'm from Washington, D.C. And when the brothers out of Portland, Oregon had a lot to say about the brothers out of Washington, D.C. And it shocked me because I found out later, and I'm from Washington, D.C., but I found out this information later. And I found the information out because it was said by a brother by the name of Fly. And they say this brother named Fly is from Washington, D.C., and he's putting on the internet a lot of things that's going on in Washington, D.C., and it applies to them here in Portland, Oregon. So I got involved. I got involved because I knew Keith. And I knew his uncle, his grandfather. See? And his grandfather had a partner named Chink Foster. And Chink Foster and I used to go around to the window all the time and holler up at his grandfather because he was dying of AIDS. Dying of cancer. And when the brother, before he passed on, we was able to talk to him a lot. And because of Chink Foster, one of his partners, we got a good relationship. But what I had to let the brothers know, out of my town, now here in Portland, Oregon, that when you begin to talk about brothers or sisters in other states, you have to be ever mindful that every state throughout the Union had their own concepts, have their own ideology, have their only thing that they bring forth to make the town more beautiful. Case in point. One of the first lessons I learned when I got here in Portland, Oregon, about the sundown law. And they had a law that all of those of African descent had to be in the house by 6 o'clock. You had to be in the house by 6 o'clock because that was a sundown law. But in that sundown law, you had to be ever mindful that 90% of the Asiatics had women that was European. And if there was a subject matter that those from Portland would talk about, it should be that. Because you always say, we as a clean and pure nation, descendants from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the family of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion. And most of our brothers and sisters that applied to their mother or their father was European. So the blessing that I'm trying to share is when I was growing up, and last month and month before last, I had two brothers. One of them name was Sammy Ware, and the other one's name was Bernard Jordan. And both of these brothers was born in 1949. And when they was born in 1949, Bernard Bell graduated from a school called Dunbar. Now, you know, Dunbar is that school in Washington, D.C. in 1899, where the people was in high school from Washington, D.C., they had to take tests. And when they took these tests, they outdone the European nations. But what hit me so hard was Bernard, when he turned 5 years old, he went to a particular school and he graduated for a particular school. But Sammy Ware, the exact same age, when he came to Washington, D.C. from South Carolina, they set him back 2 grades. They set him back 2 grades because the concepts and the ideologies of Dunbar was a lot different from those who was not students in Dunbar because they came from somewhere else. And these are things that we need to look at, because wherever you go, in every temple throughout the United States, your mission is somewhat different. The lessons that you must teach is somewhat different. And today, everybody, and I'm listening, is talking about those guys out of Washington, D.C. But these was the brothers that founded the first Moorish Science Temple of America. And we want to talk about this. We want to talk about these brothers being the first in the Moorish Science Temple of America because we just had the election here. We just had the election to put a president in office. And everybody was able to go to the polls. And when they went to the polls, they was able to vote. And they voted on who they thought would be the best representative for those in this government. But as we look at the lessons tell us about something different. And we want to talk about that because we have a few minutes to do that. And what I mean by that, when I went and voted, or when they went and voted, when you voted, it's a granted privilege. when you went down to the polls and voted, and if you say that you are of African descent, or if you call yourself black, because we know the only black flag I know is the one that killed roaches. So when you go down there to vote, and you vote for Trump, or you vote for Harris, because Trump and Harris, they already told you that you are a black. You are a black person. And because they say you was black, 1 minute you're black, and the next minute you're something else. But we all know that in 7-11, when the Moors went into Spain to give Europe civilization, we was known as Moors. Truth don't change. Man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who was able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. Now let's look at this. We went into Spain. We went into Spain as Moors. And we was there in 7-11. And we stayed there until 1492. And we know what transpired in 1492 is when the last stronghold of the Moors fell in Granada, Spain. And then you're looking at 7-11, then you're looking at 1492. And as you look at 1492, you got to go to 1493, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, the 1500s. Now, what took place in the 1500s? The 1500s, they're always talking about Jesus. They say they took Jesus, they buried Jesus in Vatican Square. And when they buried Jesus in Vatican Square, they took on his name. Now you have the European nations looking at Jesus like he is other than one of African descent, because man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who was able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So now they bring us here to America. And when they bring us here to America, that's just like we were just talking about Dunbar High School. And dealing with the Dunbar High School, those that come behind us was teaching us some lessons. And the first lesson that they taught, that we were not Negroes. Because Negro is a name given to a river in West Africa by Moors because it contained black water. It's the word Negro. It's very permanent in my mind because when I first started John F. Cook School in Washington, D.C., my teachers told me that I was a Negro. And while I was still there, they said, hey, things done changed. You're no longer a Negro. They said they even got a Negro League. But you're no longer a Negro. They said you're now colored. And we are taught that colored is anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. Now, before I graduated out of high school at Dunbar, there was a brother by the name of Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King came with the concept of civil rights. And when you talk about civil rights, which is a civil issue, you have to talk about civil law. So Drew Ali say, we're not Negro and we're not colored. And he said, we're not black either. He said, because when you begin to talk about black, you're talking about civil rights. You're talking about a non-political issue. You're talking about an issue that can't even go to the United Nations. So they kill Martin Luther King, and they give us another title. And the title they give us is black. But way before that, it was around 1913. There was a brother named Timothy Drew, known today as Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Allah sent him to us. And he came to us with the methodology that's going to be conducive to our growth and development. He told us that civil rights is a non-political issue. Civil rights is not even an issue that you could take before the UN. See, you can't take this issue, a civil rights issue, because we're talking about human rights. We're not talking about civil rights because civil rights is a non-political issue. Civil rights is not even an issue you can go before the United Nations. So if you accept the term black, you say I'm black, and I'm all black, and all this black. If you say any of these things, it's a non-political issue, it's not even an issue you could take before the UN. You can't take being black to the UN because man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there's no one who is able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless his power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. So now we're into some controversy because Drew Ali said there's still much religious controversy as to the right thing. He said big and powerful ministers have come to the conclusion that something is wrong. He said some say it is the Ten Commandments. He said others say that there's a lack of sincerity in the purpose of the churches. Still others think that it is worthless and not fit for the time that it takes to attend them. However, or whatever the final decision might be, it is certain that they will make a change, or rather try to make one. The fact of the matter is they have had only a reflection of the truth and not the real thing. Like one who holds up to the sun a mirror and casts a few of its diverted rays in a different direction, so have they done with the truth that is supposed to have come from the east. There are but few people who know what the truth is about man. And that few know that it will be foolish to try to impart it to the ignorant. Although the ignorant has finished college, he is a fool right on, being trained to jump through the hoops. The longer he stays in the school, the better he can jump and the more vivid will he defend his jumping. From the east comes all light. Though the sun is hanging at high noon, the blind cannot see the light. The same as the Islamic creed brought to the Asiatics of North America by Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who offered to those who were sick at heart, tried for many years, yet they are blind and cannot see the light. Nor the prophet trying to put new wine in old skin, for he knows that it will burst them. Yet he has the remedy. The remedy for the nations. The same remedy brought to the Asiatics of North America by Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, which remedy is the truth. So he was talking about the Asiatics of North America, and he's talking about this remedy, because he's saying that all of us of African descent, you dealing with a granted privilege. When you begin to talk about nationality, you don't have one. No one had one other than the Moorish Americans, because we are who our forefathers were. And we are today without doubt or contradiction. I was looking at a show the other day, and they had a convention. They had a convention in Chicago, Illinois, with some of the temples. And as they had the meeting with other temples, we began to talk about something that Girardi told us. And he was letting us know, because they're having the election, letting us know that if you go vote and you call yourself black, let me reiterate that. If you go and vote and call yourself black, whatever transpiring is done under a granted privilege. This is a privilege that you'll begin to get, but nationality is the order of the day, because you're who your forefathers were. And until we, as brothers and sisters, worship under our own vine and fig tree, we won't be able to even talk about reparation. And the only reason that you're not able to talk about reparation, because you're not honoring who you are. You're not honoring who your forefathers were, because truth don't change. You know, we had a little lesson, and it was talking about Abraham. It said, when you give in brief the lines and I through which Jesus came, it says some of the great father through which Jesus came are Abraham, Boaz by Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary. So now we're talking. We're talking about the house of David. We're talking about the bloodline genealogy. We're talking about who your forefathers were, because we first have to talk about Abraham. And then after we talk about Abraham, because Abraham was not always Abraham. He first was Abram, and then he became Abraham. And he became Abraham when he found grace in the eyes of God. So now we got Boaz by Ruth. See? We got Boaz by Ruth. Now we know that Boaz and Ruth got married. And when we think about that, we're thinking about Solomon, David, Jesse. We're thinking about all these brothers, because this is dealing with your line genealogy. We was taught in our books, because you have a Bible. And in your Bible, it tells you that Jesus' mother name was Mary, and his father's name was Joseph. But let me tell you what they took away from you. There was a sister by the name of Anna. And Anna was married to a brother by the name Joaquin. Now, Joaquin was Jesus' father. And Anna was Mary's mother. And Jesus was the son of Joaquin and Anna, because that's Mary's mother. And then it say, some of the great father through which Jesus came. Abraham, Boaz by Ruth, Jesse, King David, Solomon, Hezekiah, and Joseph by Mary. So there was two pillars. There's two pillars, Joaquin and Boaz. And these are the two pillars, but it was taken. Because when you look at the book and it tells you about Mary, they say Mary was a Jewish girl. And we was taught that years ago. But Mary ain't no more a Jewish girl. She's no longer of African descent. She's no longer Asiatic. Because when you look at the European nations, they done took my Jesus. They done buried my Jesus in Vatican Square, and you done took on my name. So now, like I say, we just had a convention. And we had a convention, and it was a lesson that the sheiks were talking about, because we have what is known as, let me see, how can I put this? Because we're talking about Girardi now. And we're talking about Girardi being the last prophet in these days and time. And if Noble Girardi is the last prophet in these days and time, he said, ain't nobody else coming after him. He said, if you would need it anymore, I would have bought you that too. So when Girardi came on the scene, he bought us everything that we needed. He said, I bought you everything. He said, now take it and save yourself. But what have taken place? Those of European descent, those who was dealing with us, during the advent of slavery, it don't make sense to me. You put some chains on me. You talk bad to me. But now you done took my mother, and you done took my father, and you done took my mother's name, and you done took my father's name, and now you're calling themselves you. Just like I say, Mary was a Jewish girl. And you know, as well as I know, that when you begin to talk about nationality, when you begin to talk about somebody being a Jewish girl, truth don't change. And you know why it don't change? Because truth is the only thing that changes not. Man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there is no one who was able to change man from the decent nature of his forefathers unless his power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. At the convention in Chicago, a lot of brothers and a lot of sisters was walking through the cemetery, and they looking for certain people. But let me tell you this. Now they say that there's Jew Ali reincarnated. They say there's a 1 Jew Ali, there's a 2 Jew Ali, there's a 3, 4, 5, and there's a 6 Jew Ali. But I come to find out that this sister that I've been talking about the last couple of days, Sister Christina Price Bay, she got the temple in Baltimore, and she got the temple in Washington, D.C., and Chicago. And they went to Chicago. She instructed everybody to go to Chicago. He said, first thing I want you to do is go to Chicago and take these flowers and put on the grave of our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Man, they went up there for days. They came back and said, Sheikhs, we can't find the grave site of the holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. She said, go back because it's over there. But we found out is the grave site of Noble Drew Ali had went under. And this is what they was praying for. That's why you see all these different almanacs and all these different other things and all these Drew Ali reincarnated, this one and that one. But it ain't but one. It ain't but one prophet. He said every subordinate temple conform their own laws and customs along their conjunction with the laws of the prophet. But it ain't but one. And in order for us to deal with these subject matters, you're going to have to come back under that one. Because Noble Drew Ali founded the Moorish Temple of America in 1913. And when he passed from, he was still here. Truth don't change. And it won't even pass away. So they went back out there, and they still couldn't find it. And she told them to go again. And when they went out there, the temple in Chicago, the brothers and sisters in Washington, D.C., we found the grave site of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Now, a lot of people don't go around it because they're reincarnated. They're a reincarnated prophet. They saying that you need more than one prophet, but it ain't but one. So when they found it, it was a blessing because all of the people that went to the grave site was people that I was affiliated with. And they come out of Washington, D.C. and Chicago, Illinois. I was talking to a sister, Sheik James Lynch-Bey, a couple of days ago. I said, I'm going to talk about this on the show. I'm going to talk about it because you deserve the honor anyway, because you, along with those other brothers and sisters in Washington, D.C., should be honored that this transpired, because now we have a place that we can go and put flowers on it. When I left here in Portland, Oregon, I took about 7 and 8 brothers and sisters to Chicago with me. And one of the things I did when I got to Chicago, I took all of the brothers and sisters by the prophet's grave site. And I took them by the grave site and explained these things to them, that what transpired with the prophet Noble Drew Ali. We need to look at this. We need to look at it because I'm going to tell you something. I remember years ago, there was a brother by the name of Millie Ill, small babe, Lovett Bey, and Foreman Bey. Now, Millie left Chicago shortly after or just before there was some other group of Moors by the name of C. Kirkland Bey, F. Nelson Bey, and Brother J. Blakely Bey. Now, Noble Ali, when he was in Chicago, because he was the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America. See, he was who Allah sent. The book say whenever a nation is in need for a prophet, Allah will send one. And anything that's transpiring in this government, there is a God who's greater than you and me. And when anything transpires, Allah gonna send someone to redeem us from our sinful ways and to warn us of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. So now we have drew all these grave sites sitting back up. And you have brothers and sisters from all across the world. They don't want to play that no mind. You read something that I give you on Price Bay when she talk about the white medallion. You give her that play, but you won't give her that play when our flag went under, because you got brothers in Chicago all across the country. One thing that you don't do, you don't honor the flag of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And this is what it was so beautiful about these brothers in 1956 from Washington, D.C. when they was in Lexington, Kentucky. They got some signs. Some signs was given to them. I remember before they started out, they got a place in Washington, D.C. called the White Law. See? There's a place in Washington, D.C. called the White Law. It's a home of ill repute. And when these brothers went to Lexington, Kentucky, and came home, and suppose they had went to the Moorish Science Temple of America, you can't serve two masters at the same time. You is or you ain't. You with the prophet or you ain't. None can serve two masters at the same time. You have to love one and despise the other. So we're talking about two selves now. So you have two selves. You have a higher self and you have a lower self. The higher self is human spirit, clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah. The lower self is the carnal self, is the body of desires, is a reflection of the higher self, distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. So we got a lot of work to do. There was a brother in Hartford, Connecticut called Brother Weaver Bey. And Weaver Bey had his youngest daughter. And his youngest daughter sat with two brothers, the two Cook Bey brothers, the one that the prophet sent to Baltimore to set up a temple. And when he sent her to Baltimore to set up a temple, they did a good job. But they went back to Chicago after this transpired with those brothers in 1956 when they tried to open up a Moorish Science Temple of America. So in this Moorish Science Temple of America, for those that's members, and for those who want to learn a little bit about the prophet, there's a lot of lessons that we need to learn. I remember myself, when I'm leaving the cemetery, I was in a preparation center, number 7. And there was a brother there by the name of James Bey. And he was telling me, in order for you to really be the minister or a Grand Shiek of this temple here, certain things you can't do. Because when the Moors went into Spain in 711, the first thing we did when we went into Spain was bring the Europeans out of the Dark Ages. And if you go in Europe to bring Europe out of the Dark Ages, then you'll see that there ain't but two. There's a higher self and there's a lower self. The higher self is the mother of virtues. The lower self is truth reversed. And so is falsehood manifest. So what people don't want to talk about is, he told us, he said, man, certain things you can't do if you become a member of this temple here. You can't deal with no homosexuality. You can't go up in no other men. He said, because this is not what the Moorish Zion Temple of America is all about. That reminds me of my brother. Put me in his book. Chump wouldn't even tell me he was in there. You calling yourself a Moorish America, but you're going to write a book and put a lot of Europeans in there because these are your people for real. That reminds me of Foot Tommy, see? And Miss Monkey. You want to be a Moorish American, but you want to keep on laying with Foot Tommy and Miss Monkey. And this is not the teachings of Prophet Noble Jew Ali and the Moorish Zion Temple of America. That's why German Bey sent the Muftis up there to the White Law Apartments, the house of ill repute. And he went up there, man, and you had brothers, gangsters supposed to be, went up there, Moors went up there and took all of them nationality cards. All of them is Friday night when they went up there because it's Friday night and you supposed to be in your holy day meeting. You ain't in your holy day meeting. You up on some white law doing everything that's diametrically opposed to what the prophet said. I'm looking at my paperwork right here. And it tells me right here that Brother R. Loville and Brother German Bey went to court. German Bey was happy about that. Because one thing he knew, there ain't but one temple. And I was speaking about Weaver Bey's daughters. They had the two Cook Bey brothers. Now I went by their house one time in Chicago because when they was living, if you look at the house right by the temple, it had the Star and the Crescent in there. But every time I meet somebody from Chicago and other places who always claim one thing or claim another, you're always running by the Cook Bey family house. You know it. But the reason why she had the meeting with the Cook Bey brothers to let them talk about, one of the things that they say, you see this black fan? Jew Ali had one on his head. He took it off his head and put it on the Cook Bey's head. And what makes me so happy is because I come through Temple 13. Because German Bey came from Southern Maryland. He had a cousin down Southern Maryland named White Bey. And White Bey was in up there with Weaver Bey and those brothers and sisters. Countryman Bey, all these elders. They was elder brothers and sisters. So we asking the question now. Because when Jew Ali was on the scene, see? When Jew Ali was on the scene teaching us European, now we know what happened in Temple number 4. Because Ward Dean Muhammad, the son of Elijah Muhammad, he said, man, my father, when my father first started teaching us, said he was in the Moorish Zion Temple of America. He had us in our affairs and everything else. But once my father passed, then we switched up and started calling it something else. Man today is what his forefathers were yesterday. And there is no one who was able to change man from the decent nature of his mother and father unless the power extend beyond the great universal creator, Allah himself. Ain't but one temple. Jew Ali told us that. He said one temple and one prophet. And when that sister, Weaver Bey, when she interviewed those two Cook Bey brothers, you have to understand this, that when C. Kirkland Bey, F. Nelson Bey, and J. Blakely Bey, see, these youngsters don't know that because they don't want to know it, because they know everything but their own ignorance. But these brothers, for a long time, a couple of years, when Millie Hill, Small Bay, Lovett Bay, and Former Bay, like I say, when they left that grand body and went with C. Kirkland Bey, F. Nelson Bey, and J. Blakely Bey, Millie Hill left town. And the reason why they had to do that is because when Elijah was here, when all these different brothers and sisters was here, they left the Moorish Zion Temple. They left the Moorish Zion Temple because they was getting paid from the European like they still is getting paid. And a lot of things can't be talked about is because the Europeans, like today, Kamala Harris, she said, I'm black. She said, I'm black. You're not black. Your father is who? Your mother is who? So how did you become black? The only black flag I know is the one that killed roaches. So I was telling the sister, I said, you know what? Keep on propagating this. Because we're in the earth now. We planted this. By now, you wouldn't hear about them nowhere. That's why just this week, I was talking about certain nationalities, certain piece of paper and thing that was given to us. And we need to study these things. Because really, you say that you Negro, you not. You say you colored, that you not. You say that you Afro-American, but you're not, because Africa is a continent, a very large continent. You know, what nation do you represent? Who made the devil? Who is the devil? Drew Ali said, who made the devil? He said, Elohim. He said, who is Elohim? He said, Elohim is the seven created spirits. They created everything that ever was, is, and evermore to be. That's why I honor German Bay so much, because when them brothers went into that white law and took all them nationality cards from all those dudes who pulled them great, they from Washington, D.C. too. See, I remember when I was in a place called Preparation Center number 7. And I think about Douglas Hill, Pinhead, Douglas Hill. He put me, he said, man, because you know we had the brothers up in the gym working out, getting sharp. So we had a brother up there named Kakai Crowder Hill. And Kakai Crowder Hill had Douglas Hill, they beating the bag. So when it was over, Douglas Hill said, man, you know, he put that right hand on me, man, in there. Come on, Crowder Hill, his brother, man, his brother close too. And he said, I know. But we had Preparation Center number 7. We had a national security force. We had a special forces unit. Douglas Hill, Apple Duck, Papa Evans, all these brothers and 5 and 6, 7, 8 more was on our special forces unit. And there was a lot of brothers up there, you know, that came from Marin, came from Leavenworth, came from other places, but they was just like we are. We all come up together. But you are not able to come and function in this temple if you're not ready to be who you're supposed to be. You're going to write a book and put some things in these books that have nothing to do with the Moorish Temple of America. You should have been writing like Clifton Bullock Hill. Clifton Bullock Hill wrote a good book. I mean, we was in the wall together. He wrote a good book. And when I look at these books and think about, you're talking about the higher self, which is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life, that breeds justice, mercy, love, and right. You can't be both of them. You want to write a book and talk about Jewel. I'm glad I sent you up there, Temple 71 anyway, because I was honored when I took you over Baltimore with me and thinking that you could talk about wrath and all these other things when you're talking about something different. So we're talking about something real here. And as I reiterated, we took the temple from Portland, Oregon to Chicago, because in my mindset, I needed you to see the grave site of Noah Drew Ali and what transpired with those say, I'm this now, I'm that now. And look, when you say every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is the form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and create their own laws and customs as long as they're in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. So now there's 2 temples. When the Cook Bays and Kirkland Bay, when them brothers separated themselves from Millie Hill's grand body, a lot of them brothers were still working with the government. They were working with the people back there when them people left Temple number 4. They were working with the government and was getting paid from the government and still is getting paid from the government. But this is why I like to give so much honor to the brothers and sisters that I've come in contact with. Because really, If we did it any other kind of way, we'd be pumped up. And we'll have everything that is needed to save the baby. For none can serve two masters at the same time. You have to love one and despise the other. And those sheiks and sheikas of the Moorish Science Temple, that's why I love Pray for Thee so much. Them brothers like that, they'll do much honor. They'll do much honor because all that stuff that we have, we got to get behind us. We got scissors on the side. You need to go back to the headquarters and go back to where you come in at. I was talking to a brother not too long. He said, man, I came in the temple through Temple 71. His name was Rio Jones. Rio Jones, you got to go back to Temple 71. Everybody have to go back to where they come from. You can't be one and be the other. You can't serve two masters at the same time. And this is what I love so much about me becoming a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America, because this gives me the opportunity to grow. We're talking about growth and development. We're talking about the teachings of Noble Drew Ali. That's why Noble Drew Ali told all of us to learn our divine constitution and bylaws, our additional laws, our questionnaire, and learn everything that he brought us to save a nation. And he said, how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish man? By teaching them to be themselves. Who are you? You're an Asiatic Muslim. You're Asiatic because they but two formulations, Asiatic and European. And you're sure not European. See? So you're a Muslim. See? So we got two entities. Just like right now, all of those that came into Spain, when we went into Spain, and when we were put into slavery, these was different thought patterns. Just like we have a Kamala Harris, and she has a husband, and her husband said that he is Jewish, and everybody in their right mind know that you're Asiatic or you're European. And if my sister, Jesus' mother, Mary, was Asiatic and not European, then you have to be who your forefathers were. We need to go back to school. There's a lot of things that we have to learn, and the reason why there's so much war that is going on today in all these different countries, because a lot of them took on other names. A lot of them is not who their forefathers were. And it's just like me. I done took on another name. I call myself black. The only black flag we know is the one that Kier wrote. They gave me this title. He said, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality. And we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now. And all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali the prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Now we're talking about the ancient Moabites now. We're talking about the present day Moabites now. We're talking about birthrights. We're talking about being buried in Vatican Square, your name being took on by somebody else. And this is why we have to go back to school. This is why I brought up earlier about when I wasn't born yet, when those brothers and sisters from Washington, D.C. in 1899, they changed the whole school curriculum, because you still had brothers and sisters who who had the concept that the Europeans didn't want you to have. They give you what they want to give you, and they take away from you what they want to take away from you. And we need to understand that in all the world, there are but two things. The one is truth, and the other is falsehood. And falsehood is that which seems to be. And truth is all, it has no cause, and yet it is the cause of everything. Falsehood is naught, and yet it is the manifest of right. So this takes me back to the Holy Prophet gravesite, but nobody could find it underground, and they had mausoleums and all these things with Noble Drew Ali on it and the reincarnated Noble Drew Ali. And you know what? That don't even count, because ain't but one prophet. He said, I bought you everything that it take to save a nation, to take it and save yourself. And if something ain't right, then take yourself. Keep doing what the prophet say, because you got a charter. And you keep doing that, then everything gonna fall and be no more. Because Drew Ali said he got the European in his hand. And he got it all. All you have to do is just stay in line with all the necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you're entitled to the name of faithful. So we are honored. We are honored to be able to come by and remember of the mission that I remember Stocks Bay and Benson Hill. They talked about the prophet's grave site in Chicago. And they was with Saunders Bay. And a few other brothers and sisters who had passed on. And all of them went up there and they found that grave site of the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And the people was happy. Some were, and some were sad. Because what they wanted to do was wipe Noble Drew Ali out. Now people say they seen the pictures of this one, they seen the pictures of that one, but Drew Ali had went under the rug. And the Moorish Americans brought him back. So I'll complete this another time, because I'm going to close out now and do another show. So at this time, I'd like to close out with the Moorish American prayer from the Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, my night and my day, through his Holy Prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. It's a great day in the Muslim marching, great day. Drew Ali done build up the Muslim wall. Drew Ali done build up the Muslim wall.